We're good to go.
Mr. Mandrick.
Good afternoon, everyone who may be listening. This is the regular board meeting of the Gateway Community Charters, and we are streaming online on YouTube, and we are also holding the board meeting on Zoom. So with that, I will make the roll call. Mr. Turner.
Present.
Mr. Block. Mr. Block. Mr. Block was here.
Yes, we will have to wait because without him, we do not have a quorum. So there he is. Mr. Block, can you hear us? Mr. Block, Mr. Block. We want to thank the audience for their patience with technology. We are going to get this, but we need Mr. Block to come back on and answer to roll call so that we can assure our quorum is in place. So if you would be patient with us, we would appreciate it.
I just will note that Ms. Campbell and Mr. Anderson are not present today. So,
Okay, I'm in.
All right.
And Mr. Block, I see you are present.
Yes, it went off. Came back on.
That's happened to most of us before. Very good. We will proceed then. We have a board resolution that we must pass in order to be allowed to have our board meeting on Zoom, and that is COVID-19 SB 361 board resolution. I would move for approval or ask for approval. Mr. Turner, approve.
I move approval of SB 361.
Second.
And Mr. Block seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I guess we have to do a roll call, don't we? Mr. Block,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Mr. Mandrick, yes. It passes unanimously. Is there any public comment?
Mr. Vice President, there are no public comment tonight.
Okay, that moves us to item number 4, which is superintendent's comments.
Yes, just giving you your meeting update. Feels like an annual update. There's always a year in between each time, feels like. But we are this week starting the final 5 weeks of the 21-22 school year. Seems impossible, but this school year is just sprinting to the finish line. We're going to really be working on finishing this year strong, and a lot of good things happening. Some of our good news around COVID, as most of you are aware, is that in fact the proposed regulations and pending legislation about requiring student vaccinations have not gone into effect, which is an important issue for some of our families. So I'm pleased that we have that information. Really going to give you a potpourri of things going on, including I want to give a shout out to our very own Director of Special Education and Student Services, Eric Crawford, who successfully defended his dissertation this last week and achieved his doctorate. So kudos and congratulations to the newly minted Dr. Eric Crawford. So it takes a lot of work to raise a family and take care of all of that and take care of your job and also get your doctorate. So congratulations to Dr. Crawford. I continue, as do others, to be involved in AXA Superintendent Council and other AXA gatherings and entities, including some AXA trainings. I know that we also have our very own Jason Sampo, who's just back from fulfilling his duties as a WASP commissioner. We certainly have on this call our own Dr. Christine McCormick, who is getting ready to fulfill her duties this weekend as the program chair for the AXA Region 234 North State Conference. So a lot of good stuff going on. We're being represented well across the organization. I have started my spring superintendent presentations and have had the wonderful time to present to at least 3 different schools already, GIS and Futures on Friday and this morning with yesterday morning with CCCS and the Virtual Academy. So really not enjoying Zoom, but we are still kind of in that probably space for the remainder of this year for those types of presentations. As you may be aware, Jason Sample, our Deputy Superintendent, was honored by CASA and AXA as an Outstanding Leader in Education Award winner. And I was very honored to be able to be with him when he received that award. Jason also led the AXA Legislative Action Day for Region 3, and a number of us in the GCC participated in a variety of parts of it, including just being advocates for our students, staff, and families with our legislators. Also, about a week ago, I finished the Dare to Lead framework training, which was a 4-week training that AXA put on, and was all about how to show up wholeheartedly as a leader. It was a great offering with a whole bunch of women from across the state. Myself, Erin Marston, Tara Jones, and Summer Ash are going to be doing a presentation at the North State Conference on Saturday morning in South Lake Tahoe, and going to be talking about Culture Eats Strategy for Breakfast, and kind of excited to co-present with those wonderful people. We've had a lot of activities, including we've been working on our coherence work, our cycles of inquiry work. We're having our leadership development work with Lyle Kurtman continuing. I've been able to attend, and others have attended different meetings in relation to our charter SELPA and CEO meetings and business meetings to continue our great work in special education. Last Friday at Rancho Del Paso, we had our first ever GCC job fair, at least the first one that I'm aware of this nature, and really want to appreciate all of our schools that came out and had tables, and the HR team for really going the extra mile to try to find ways to fill our staff needs. We are working on our Crucial Conversations cohort. We're about, I don't know, the 7th or 8th lesson, and really talking about how we make it safe to have any type of conversation we need to have in the workplace. The annual school reports are getting close to ready, and we will be starting those at our next meeting. I know you look forward to those, and I know our sites certainly look forward to telling you all about the great work they're doing. We want to remind you that May 5th is the big day of giving, and this is a day to join other organizations in raising money for our student programs. And we were not able to do some of our fundraising during COVID, and so we want to come back to having those funds and able to support our schools. So if you see it within yourself to donate, you certainly can donate through the foundation, and Jason and or Melissa would be happy to support you with that. And just a reminder to the board, you do have your annual student scholarship, and Melissa is happy to have you contribute to your portion towards the board scholarship. Okay, Jason and or Christine, any items from the superintendent's update I may have missed?
Sounds good, Dr. Peterson.
All right, there you go, board.
Thank you for the update. And that we will move on to the study session. The first item is an update on COVID-19 in the schools, and hopefully at some point this will go away.
There you go. And I'm assuming, Dr. McCormick, you're taking the lead on this one, or is that you and Mr. Sample?
Myself and Mr. Sample.
All right. So good evening, board. Mr. Vice President, we also agree with you in that we're hoping at some point. This is not a standing agenda item, but we are happy just to kind of give you a few updates of what's happening in terms of our community as well as within our schools. All right. So Kind of our first area is there has been what we call a very minor spike. Sac County Public Health kind of says it's a minor spike from the spring break season across Sacramento County. Nothing majorly significant. And so they continue to watch that. We have received revised quarantine and testing protocols for our students. And Dr. McCormick will share a little bit more about that as we continue with some of our next slides. So next slide. So COVID in the news. There we have it. So a few big announcements happened over the course of the last few weeks. As Dr. Peterson shared, we were doing the Association of California School Administrators led action week. So I would like to say that I think we want to claim credit for this as a collective group of administrators who really made a very resounding voice to our state legislators and law officials about the harm that mandating the vaccination for next school year would cause education. And so last week, Governor Newsom and Senator Pan, coincidentally, Senator Pan announced this on AXA's legislative lunch break that he would be withdrawing his SB 893, which was the bill that would have mandated that vaccination would go into effect for next school year. The following day, Governor Newsom came out and he announced during that time that the CDPH guidance would also come in alignment and student vaccination would not be required for next school year. We've communicated that information to our parents, our staff, to let them know just where this stands. At this time, staff is still required by Cal OSHA to either vaccinate or test weekly, and we're waiting further guidance on that. And then finally, new guidance was released for events as we move to that part of our school year. Finally, today, we're even doing one of these right now as we're speaking. We have a vaccination clinic that this one was in partnership with Elica Health as well as County Public Health. We have a taco truck, and every person who goes and gets a vaccine, they get $25, not from us, but from the county. Our Director of School, Parent, and Governmental Relations, Mr. Sergey Terekov, said it's $25 per shot, but you can only get one shot per day. So we continue to really look to offer the vaccination clinics to our staff, to our community, as well as, once again, we partnered 2 weeks ago with UC Davis Health to actually bring a doctor from the Slavic community to talk to our community about the importance of vaccination. Dr. McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Sample. So one of the items I wanted to share with you was we were able to, in partnership with Sacramento County Public Health, California Public Health, our 2 county offices, distribute at-home test kits to all of our staff and our families prior to spring break. This was part of the guidance that we received to test for safety for coming back to school from the extended break. Some of the new student guidance allows us to keep students in class that may have been exposed, but we do still have to have those students that test positive stay home. So our hope was to be able to make sure that we could get as many students back to school as well as staff. And so that was a great ability to do that right before the students went on break. And then finally, we just received approval yesterday that all of our schools are getting another section of at-home test kits that'll be directly shipped to each of them that they're going to be able to continue to use to support families, to support our staff, whatever they need to do. If families need access, we're going to be able to provide that for them. And, you know, Jason mentioned that we are still required to either test or have proof of full vaccination for our staff. We are still at our 63% vaccination rate. And as we continue to offer opportunities for staff on our own sites to get vaccinated, we continue to support their decision to pick one option or the other, but we do realize that we are now going to need to develop a plan to provide testing support for our staff that's working this summer. So I want to affirm the nursing team as well as the HR department. They're starting to meet already to figure out the best way to provide access to our staff that may need to be able to meet that requirement during our typical times that we would not necessarily have as much staff as usual, but still need to provide the service. So, and that is the end of our presentation. If there's any questions that we can answer for you.
You know, I think they've become numb to COVID-19 is what that is right there. But really, I want to definitely affirm you, each of you, because Jason and Christine, you have had to yourself stayed immersed in this, like it or not. So thank you for keeping us informed. And then we'll move to the second study session item, Mr. Mandrick, if that's okay with you.
That's okay. I would like to just comment that I'm in one of those groups that was eligible for the second booster, and I have received the second booster last week. So I would encourage everyone who's in those categories to consider getting a booster or getting the shots if you haven't gotten the shots already. So yes, let's move on to the second study session, which is on A3g completion improvement grant. And I would like to just mention for the public that there is a public hearing on this item later in the agenda. So if you're planning, if you're here to learn about this item, you want to stick around till the public hearing as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to staff.
All right, who's speaking to this of staff?
I have asked Maury, our Director of CTE and Special
Good.
Projects, who really took the lead on putting these grant proposals together, to go ahead and share some insight about them with the board.
There we go. Melissa, do you have the presentation handy, or should I share it myself? Okay, give me 1 second to pull it up. All right. Well, the A3g completion improvement plan. Tonight, we're going to talk about what this plan is, what kind of funding we're going to be receiving for it, and what kind of accountability measures are in place to make sure we use this funding effectively. First off, I'll give a quick summary of what A3g requirements look like. These really haven't changed over the last few years, so many of you may be familiar with them. For a student to complete high school and be what they call A3g qualified, you must have completed 2 years of history, 4 of English, 3 of math, 2 of science, 2 years of foreign language, 1 year of visual performing arts, and 1 year of an A3g approved elective course. Across the GCC right now with our 5 high schools, we do not have real high A3g completion rates. So it's exciting to have opportunities like this built in and funding available to help us grow towards excellence in these areas. So this grant, the purpose of it is to increase the number of students who graduate with A3g eligibility. These funds are targeted to serve students in high school, grades 9 through 12. The funds will be used for activities that directly support pupil access and successful completion of A3g course requirements. And as Bruce mentioned earlier, this plan must be discussed at a regularly scheduled board meeting. So that's why we're here tonight, giving details of this plan. And funding is determined based on our unduplicated pupil count from our 2020-2021 fiscal year. And these funds will be given to us starting this year and be available to spend through the 25-26 school year. All right, so this grant overall is over $500 million being allocated to schools across the state. And it's specifically broken into 3 different areas. There's the access grant, which will be given to schools who have a A3g completion rate of less than 67%. There's the success grant to help further support schools that have a rate above 67%. And there's the learning loss mitigation grant that is built to support students who have taken A3g courses but received grades of D or an F in those courses. So here is the breakdown of what we are going to be receiving across the GCC. And in the bottom right corner, you can see the total allocation across all 5 of our high schools comes to $845,000. Depending on which school you look at, the total amount is going to range from $150,000 all the way up to $221,000 at Sav-Sac City. The specifics of our plan, 5 bullet points here that have been written into our official plan to say how we're going to use these funds to help increase our A through G completion rates. And these are very similar across all of our schools. So each school has a plan, but we collaborated together and came up with these 5 areas that we're going to be focusing on. First off, we'll use these funds to provide professional development for teachers and administrators to help improve the A through G completion rate. We will hire staff and counseling support to help build comprehensive plans for students around tutoring, 4-year plans, and college counseling services. We'll use these funds to provide more access to A through G classes and coursework. We'll look at course development and review, and we'll have, sorry, I thought I heard someone. We'll have support staff in classes to support teachers and students with learning disabilities. We'll also use these dollars to provide student test fees, specifically geared around AP and IB tests for unduplicated pupils. And we'll use these dollars to help expand our partnerships with local community colleges and four-year universities. 3 simple ways that we will measure success with this grant. We're simply going to look at the number of students that we have currently had meeting A through G requirements, and when these dollars are used up and we put the work in to increase this, we'll look at the number of students that we have at that time, and again, hope to see a large increase in the number of students that graduate A through G ready. We'll also look at percentages of students that are enrolled in A through G courses across all of our high schools. And we'll look at the percentage of students that are successful in those courses. How many students are getting a grade of a C- or better, which is the grade that they need for that A through G course to count. Those are the details of our plan. So at this time, if you have questions, I would be happy to answer any of those.
Are there board members with questions? Jack?
Yes, really impressive, and I'm excited that we're participating in this grant. Yeah, are there any requirements that we have that a certain minimum number of students must successfully complete the program, Maury?
Great question. There are not minimum requirements that must be met. They're just looking for growth.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
I look forward to hearing the success of it. It really sounds perfect for our programs. Thank you.
It is. I'll jump in and give one of the areas that I think we can really work towards excellence in, specifically at our independent study schools. We have most of the A through G courses we need are available to students, but foreign language is one of the ways that our IS schools have really fallen short in this area. And so as part of our collaborative conversation with the principals of our IS schools and over at Futures, that's really going to be an emphasis is how are we delivering that content and giving that access to students for foreign language across our independent study schools. So that'll be a big way that we can really bump those numbers up fast if we can effectively implement foreign language.
Good, good, outstanding.
Any other questions? Thank you, Maury. That was very well presented, and I think it gives us a good opportunity to move forward.
All right, thank you all.
Okay, there's no action on this item at this point. Item 6 on the agenda, which is review and information English Learner Master Plan.
So Dr. McCormick has placed this here, and it's really, as I understand it, just an annual update that should be put before you. But Dr. McCormick, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, it is exactly that for your information. So you're aware of the services and how English learners are placed within the schools of the GCC.
Okay. So that's it just for your review and information. So we're going to go ahead. Jack Turner.
Jack?
Yes, just a question. have we enrolled any students that have come to the U.S. from the crisis in Ukraine?
We have just some initial small numbers coming, primarily those that already have relatives here who can vouch for them. So the big waves have not come yet. But I was just out at Epic this morning. I think they believe that they have somewhere near the 7 to 10 mark that they've already signed up. And I believe COA, GIS have also experienced some numbers in that, lower to small double digits at this point. So the big wave was not expected, Jason, until, is it June?
That is correct. Yeah. Sometime during early summer, we expect.
Certainly, I think they would be participants and anything we can do to help them improve their experience here in the classroom. We certainly would be supportive. Thanks.
We have definitely been speaking to our principals and to one another about how we can best position ourselves to be part of the solution for these families, both for their educational needs, but also because we can be providers to help be sure that they're aware of what the community offers around services as well.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board? Thank you for the information. This leads us to the consent agenda. There are 9 items on the consent agenda. We have minutes of the last board meeting as well as the board retreat, personnel consent agenda, purchases over $30,000, overnight field trip, dashboard alternative for several schools, disposal of surplus items, and board policy on education for English learners. Finally, revision of board policy on athletic competition. I would entertain a motion. I think I see Harry's hand
So
there.
moved. Yes, so moved.
I second.
And Jack Turner seconds. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye. I guess we have to go through, I'm sorry, I'm on the old rules. We have to have a
Roll call.
roll call. So Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Mr. Block,
Yes.
Mr. Mandrick, yes. Very good. That moves us, as I indicated earlier, we are having a public hearing on the AG Improvement Grant Plan, which was discussed earlier on the agenda. So this is an opportunity for members of the public to express any questions or concerns on those plans. Do we have any public input at this time?
Mr. Vice President, there are no public members of the public that have signed up to speak or submitted comments.
Very good then. There's no action required on this at this time, so I will close the public hearing on this particular item. That brings us to item 10 on the agenda, which is facilities. And it's a letter of intent, GCC and the Virtual Academy facilities lease. And staff might mention that there is a slight change in the letter as such, with the decimal point as opposed to a comma.
Yes,
That comma would be
instead of a
problematic.
decimal point. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Vice President. So we ask that the board would make your motion that the payment is 97.97 decimal 70 cents versus comma.
Okay, any questions from board members?
If I could just, in case anyone is unclear, this item is about increasing the footprint in our current office, just expanding downward into what has been open since we used this facility. It includes that while McClellan is doing tenant improvements to allow us to expand into that space, that our ever-growing virtual academy will be provided month-to-month space across the street from where we currently are. Right now, they have no dedicated space. And as many of you know, they've grown to close to, if not at 150 students. Not that they come in all the time, but we need a space for their records. We need a clerical, we need a, space for the campus principal to meet, et cetera. So I want to definitely give Jerry Little, our facilities coordinator. Kudos, he's been working with McClellan on both those items, but this is just a matter of needing to expand the space we have. Many of you are aware, we have many more psychologists, nurses, and other support providers in our office that are necessary. And we also are running out of space in our current configuration.
Any questions from board members? I assume we need action on this item.
Yes.
I would entertain a motion. Mr. Turner.
I move approval
Second.
with the change to the item.
Thank you.
Second.
And a second from Mr. Block. That's very good. We have a roll call. Mr. Block,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Mr. Mandrick, yes. Unanimous vote. That ends our action agenda. We do have board comments. Are there board comments? I see no board comments.
Jack Turner has his hand raised.
Oh, sorry, Jack.
Bruce, you run a really tight meeting, and I appreciate the timeline on it. Very well done.
Well, I appreciate everybody's participation, so thank you very much. We do have a closed session, which is next on the agenda, and we're have closed session on two items: real property negotiations and employee personnel matters pursuant to Government Code Section 54.957. So we will be moving into closed session. We will be back after closed session to announce any action, but there will be no specific action items after closed session.
Is that Cynthia's voice?
Mhm.
Surprise.
Okay, we are back in open session. There was no action taken in closed session. And there are no other items on the agenda. So I would like to thank the board for participation tonight. We had a small but great attendance,
Mighty, small but mighty.
but mighty attendance. So thanks staff for your support and attendance tonight as well. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Turner and Mr. Block. Okay.
Yeah, I would make a motion to adjourn, but I want to say one thing. My granddaughter turned 21 today, so she's a former student. So I'm so glad she's grown, so I can try to move her along.
All right. Well, congratulations to her and you.
All right.
Okay, with that, we won't have roll call. All's in favor of adjourning